What the fuck? Fried Barry is brought to us by director Ryan Kruger and stars Gary Green as Barry. We follow Barry, a low-life drug addict living in Cape Town, South Africa. Barry's not a good guy. He's always off getting high on heroin instead of attending to his wife and child at home. And one night, while on one of his benders, he is seemingly abducted by aliens. And after one of the weirdest and most horrific alien abduction scenes I've ever seen in my fucking life, Barry is returned to Earth, but he's not quite the same. Oh no, it's Barry's body, but he's been hijacked by some intergalactic personality. So now we get to follow Barry, or at least his body, as it's taken on a joyride through the seedy underbelly of Cape Town. Man, what the fuck is this movie? This is one of the weirdest fucking movies I have ever seen in my life. I do want to say thank you because this movie was recommended to me by one of my viewers, Sujan JP. He recommended I check this one out, and in his defense, he did warn me that this was a really fucking weird movie. You weren't lying, Sujan. You weren't lying. I can't stress enough how odd this movie is. This is definitely one of the weirdest from like beginning to end movies I have seen in a long time. As far as narrative structures go, there's not really a lot. It's really just this guy whose body has been hijacked by an alien going around the city and just getting involved in out there shit. And these situations increase in weirdness as it goes along. If you've never done hard drugs, but you've wondered what it was like, then watch this movie. It'll probably give you a pretty good idea. Our friend Barry ends up at a nightclub where he downs a shit ton of X. He goes fucking nuts from there. He ends up with a prostitute. He goes to the world's longest fucking cardboard box on the side of the street, which I'm pretty sure was due to the drug-addled nonsense he had gotten into earlier that night. He ends up the prisoner of some psycho who has a whole bunch of people held captive and is wanting to like cut pieces off because he's convinced that Barry can regrow limbs or something. He has a chainsaw battle with a guy. He saves some hookers. He conceives and fathers a child like all in one night. He kills 2 people with his dick. I think it was 2 people. It was at least 1 person died by dick. Gets arrested, goes to an insane asylum, escapes, does some other crazy shit. This movie's just fucking out there, man. Like really out there. They took every crazy idea they could have, threw it on a fucking page and said, we're not cutting anything. It's almost like it was an experiment in taking all these insane, unrelated ideas, putting them on paper and saying, how can we possibly link all this shit together? At least 2/3 of this movie, I was sitting there with my mouth open, just wondering what the fuck was going on. Seriously, I looked something like this. However, I will say that even though this movie is batshit bonkers, has pretty much no narrative whatsoever, I just could not stop watching it. The sheer lunacy that takes place on screen, you just can't pull your eyes away from. And Gary Green as Barry was just mesmerizing to watch. If ever I have believed that someone was possessed by an alien, I believe that Gary Green in this movie was. Either that or he was tweaking fucking balls. Probably both. I believe both of them. This movie is an exercise in absolute insanity. The things that take place on screen, it's almost like you're seeing the world through a person who has lost their fucking mind. At times, you're not really sure if what you're seeing is supposed to be real or not, given the narrative of the film. Is Barry just fucking crazy? Has he taken too many drugs? Has he just fried his fucking mind? Hence, Fried Barry? Or is there really an alien consciousness in there experiencing our world through a fucking tweaker, which is severely clouded by all the drugs that he takes in this movie? Honestly, I don't know. Now, the movie does give us a fairly definitive ending, but really, given the way that this movie plays out, I'm not 100% sure. It may have just kind of been twisted inside of his fucked up head. And that doubt right there, that thing, that wondering what's really going on, is one of the things that keeps you attached to the screen. That and the just utter fucking insanity that takes place here. I know I've said that a lot, but that is what this movie is. This movie is like total fucking chaos. But it's somehow, even though it is just fucking out there and insane, and a lot of it doesn't even seem like it's connected, somehow it keeps you involved. It keeps you wanting to watch and see what happens next. I've seen movies that didn't have much of a narrative structure before that were really fucking out there, and they just lost me. But Fried Barry admittedly kept me hooked all the way to the end. And a lot of that goes to the actual filmmaking here. Ryan Coogler did a wonderful job here of making this movie. The technical side of filming this movie, it's dirty and it's grungy, but it's really interesting to look at the entire time. While the characters may not always be telling a story, the filmmaking is. There is an energy to this movie that just cannot be classified. It starts in the very beginning and goes all the way to the end. It's almost like a high, like you have taken some hardcore upper and you're just like going a million miles a minute, and when it's time to fucking go down and burn out, the movie ends. Now, while I did mention Green's unorthodox performance and how much I enjoyed it, everybody else does their part too. Everybody else is just kind of passers-by. They're just on the peripheral of Barry at all times. Barry and Coogler's filmmaking prowess are on full display in the spotlight here, and they do not disappoint. Now, I think it goes without saying that this movie is not going to be for everybody. Hell, if you'd asked me just from the synopsis, I would probably say it wasn't going to be for me, but as I said, there was something that just kept me going, something that drew me to it. It has an infectious quality that just draws you in, regardless if it makes sense or not. However, fair warning, there are some really disturbing scenes in this film. There's some shit that they show that some people are not gonna be okay with. From the sexually explicit to the ultra violent, there are some really fucked up things that happen in this movie. The movie pulls no punches. I don't think it had the largest budget in the world, but it uses what budget it had to nauseating effect at times. That being said, regardless of what you see on screen will disgust you or not, it does all look good for what it is. Guys, Fried Barry is a really difficult film to recommend. I'm not really 100% sure if I liked it, but I did like my time with it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it is what it is. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but I am happy that I watched it. It is a drug-addled, adrenaline-fueled roller coaster of insanity. Like really, it's fucking crazy. Like Mandy, anybody who thinks Mandy with Nicolas Cage was out there and crazy, Mandy ain't got shit on this movie. Yeah, it's that fucking crazy. This motherfucker's out there. It is pure, unadulterated, unhinged insanity, and it is absolutely worth a stream.
Across the street.
I myself probably would have taken this movie up one level on the ratings to worth a rent if it weren't for the fact that I think that this movie is probably going to alienate a lot of people. A lot of people just are not going to be able to get down with everything that's going on in this movie. But if everything I explained sounds like a good time to you and you're looking for some of that unadulterated, unhinged craziness, then check out Fried Barry one night and I think you will have an insane fucking time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Fried Barry. If you enjoyed, want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Cape Town. What is your name? So gentlemen, a real quick PSA concerning this movie and you watching it. You may have noticed I mentioned some disturbing imagery in the film, and there's one thing that in my personal opinion is the most disturbing of all, at least for men, depending on your vices I guess, but for me it was pretty fucking disturbing. When Barry's abducted, there are some things that the aliens subject him to. Most specifically, some parts of his body that get subjected to some things. Now I don't want to ruin anything here, even though this scene could possibly ruin your fucking week, but there's a part that you do see coming, admittedly, but it's kind of tough to watch. Now admittedly, this part doesn't show the worst part of this procedure that is happening to Barry, but it shows enough. It certainly showed enough for me to really squirm and get real uneasy in my seat. Really, man, god damn, that was fucked up, Ryan Coogler. You're the writer on this movie too, so I know you came up with that shit. That was fucked up. Stuff's not supposed to go in that hole.